Yeah, that's hot.
Okay, I think we got 1 minute. Can I start?
You can start. As long as the on air is on.
Okay, this meeting will come to order. Can we have a roll call? Member present, please.
William Klein. Here. Ron Shamash.
Here.
Roger Grave de Peralta has a excused absence. Tom Wenham.
Here.
Ryan Michigan has an excused absence. Stacy Summers.
Here.
Miguel Alonso.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Welcome to the public. Everybody, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to read first the March 28 minutes?
Yes.
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 And are there any correction or changes? No, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Tom Winham, second by Bill Klein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Second one is, did everybody have a chance to read the April 17 minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Tom Winham, second by Bill Klein. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. The minutes are approved. Are there any changes, addition, and deletion to the agenda? And I guess we do.
We're removing the white vinyl fences
Okay,
to not having a full board.
okay. We don't have a full board, so we're gonna have a discussion about the white
But keep your
vinyl.
packets, because I'm
You don't wanna
putting
do
it
it
on the
again.
agenda, and I'm not going to give you another packet.
Okay, eventually we'll get to it. Can I have a motion to approve the changes to the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Tom Winham, second.
I second.
Second by Bill Klein. Mr. Bill Klein, all in favor of changing the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved as changed. Thank you. Okay, now we're gonna do the swearing of witnesses and speakers. If anybody plan to talk to us, or if we're gonna ask you question and you answer some questions, I need you to raise your right hand. Say, I swear to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But the truth. You do. Thank you. All right. Next order of business is new business. First item is petition number 19038, Christ Community Church. Do any board member wish to disclose any ex parte communications?
Sought some input from some Isles residents, but
Okay. Thank you. We'll add that to the record. What are staff recommendations on that one?
good evening.
Good evening, Damian Newell with Planning and Zoning Division. Before you is the Christ Community Church, petition 19-38 ARB 1909. The petitioner is requesting approval of the building elevation, exterior colors, materials, site amenities, and signage for the proposed place of worship. The subject site is within the Orange Point Plan Unit Development and is located at the southwest corner of Lake Worth Road and Barefoot Lake Drive, as illustrated on Exhibit A of the staff report. The 2.8 acre site is currently vacant and was recently purchased by the new owners, Christ Community Church, in 2018. Staff is currently processing final approval of the site plan to construct the place of worship project. The proposed building is one story totaling 14,500 square feet with an overall height of approximately 30 feet. The proposed elevations provided as Exhibit B in the staff report illustrates stucco finish, fiberglass shingles with pitch roof with a slope of 512, which meet the code requirements. It also adds an accent veneer, stone veneer, and architectural details throughout the elevations. The proposed building scale, colors, materials, design, and architecture are appropriate to the character of the surrounding residential area. Staff notes that additional landscaping was requested during the site plan review to help soften the proposed building and help ensure its compatibility with the adjacent residential community. Staff recommends approval of the proposed exterior colors and materials illustrated on Exhibit C, as it's consistent with Wellington's approved ARB color chart and compatible with the existing surrounding communities. The petitioner is requesting a changeable copy monument sign along Lakewood Road and a project identification monument sign along Barefoot Lake Drive. This site is allowed 2 monument signs because it does have frontage on 2 streets. So they are allowed 2 signs. Per the LDR, monument signs shall not exceed 10 feet in length, or 8 feet in height, and not exceed 32 square feet in sign area. The changeable copy area should not exceed 4 feet in height and 5 feet in width. Wall signs are not proposed for this project. The proposed monument type signs are consistent with the LDR requirements, and staff does recommend approval per the LDR. Staff does recommend approval for the overall project, which is petition 19-38 as presented, with the conditions of approvals listed in the 8 conditions of approvals listed in the staff report. At this time, staff would like to enter this petition into the records, and staff and the applicant is available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Damien. We'll open this item for public hearing and we'll take testimony. Anybody want to speak on the behalf of Christ Community Church? Please state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bob Coapolo, Coapolo and Associates Architects. We are the project architects for this project. So if you have any questions, we'd certainly like to answer them and give you our opinion.
Great. Board member, anybody have any questions?
Damien, are any technical deviations being requested?
No technical deviations are being requested.
Okay, thank you.
It's been a while since something is going to take place on this. I can remember going back, and many volumes of discussions have been about this 1 acre piece. So
Yes.
I'm finally glad to see that something is going to be done, and I'm sure it's in the best interest of the community. So
It's very nice. Do you know what happened to Nate Jacobs there? Or?
I don't know the history, but I know they sold the property last year to my client.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we were wondering if it's coming or not, and then nothing happened for many years.
Yeah. There were some proposed sketches done about 8 or 9 years ago with a church and a day school, but it never went any further.
It looks very nice. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions from the board regarding the testimony? We'll close the public hearing. Any more discussion from the board? Okay. Is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve, subject to staff's recommendations, petition number 19-38, ARB 19-009.
Anybody wants a second?
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Tom Windham and second by Stacy Summers Ms. Stacy Summers to approve the request per staff recommendation. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, the motion is passed
you very much.
unanimously. Thank you. Okay, our next item is petition number 19-046, Urban Air Adventure Park at Wellington Green. Do any of the board members wish to disclose any ex parte communications?
I drove by it yesterday, stopped, looked at it, and so I do have some questions at the appropriate time.
Okay, and actually I drove by it today and I took some pictures because I saw they actually went ahead with some paintings.
Yeah, I
Okay.
drove by too, and that's what I was thinking.
Okay, let's hear about staff recommendation. Brandon?
Good evening, Brandon Miller with the Planning and Zoning Division. You have before you petition number 19046, ARB 19-010. The agent is seeking Architectural Review Board approval of a primary wall sign that exceeds the maximum allowable height for the center, modification of the ARB approved color chart to add knockout orange, and approval of the exterior colors for Urban Air Adventure Park at Wellington Green and UPDC. The petitioner is requesting a technical deviation to allow a primary wall sign 75.5 inches in height and 21.87 feet in length. The proposed wall sign has a total sign area of 141.3 square feet. Per the LDR, a primary wall sign for this tenant shall be a maximum of 60 inches in height and a maximum square footage of 150 square feet. The proposed wall sign exceeds the maximum allowed height by 15.5 inches for a total of 75.5 inches in height, and the proposed sign area is 141.3 square feet, which is over 8 square feet less than what is permitted. The current bay, which is the former H.H. Gregg location, has previously been approved for a sign that was 144 square feet with a height of 72 inches. This proposed sign is centered above the arched entryway of the tenant bay and has approximately 47 inches of space above and below the sign. The larger sign will increase visibility for the tenant, which is needed to locate them within the plaza. In addition, the tenant is located directly behind the nature preserve area, which also reduces their visibility along Forest Hill Boulevard. The proposed rendering options for Urban Air Adventure Park, shown in Exhibit B through D, leave the storefront intact and all existing elements remain except the colors. The tenant has already painted the storefront as shown in Option 1 without receiving approval. The orange color proposed, knockout orange, is not on the approved color chart for either exterior body colors or trim colors. Staff recommends approval of the sign with the conditions listed in the staff report. Staff also recommends approval of the proposed sign and exterior colors as seen in Option 3 with the condition that the awning and back facade painted gauntlet gray shall remain the original yellow-orange that was in place prior to the painting of the tenant space, or the applicant shall choose another neutral color that is on the ARB color board that breaks up the facade and that is acceptable to village staff. Lastly, staff recommends denial of modifying the ARB approved color board to allow knockout orange.
Okay, thank you. We'll open this item for public hearing and take testimony. Does anybody want to step up and speak in behalf of the Urban Air Adventure Park? Can you please state your name?
Yes. Denise Williams with Art Sign Company, and we are trying to get the approval for the sign as well as the paint colors. The option 1 is basically what's existing now, and that's why it's option 1, because they did paint before approval. Basically, the sign, the majority of the letters are just like 2 feet 4 inches. They're not even the full 60 inches that would be allowed. Just because of the layout of the sign, we feel like asking for a little bit larger sign's not going to stand out like it would be if every letter was 60 inches, or, you know, it's just because of the nature of the design of the sign. And then as far as the colors, they did paint the, I guess you call it trellis or awning orange. And the last page of the option 3, shows it changed to a gray, which would match the dark gray around the arches at the bottom. When I spoke with Damien, he recommended that it not be the full gray that's underneath it now. So that's why option 2 and option 3 show the exterior of the arches kind of painted back the same color as they were before, just to give it some dimension of depth, so it doesn't look so flat. But we would like any consideration you can give us for the color change for the paint.
Okay, does the tenant have a specific preference? I'm guessing they
Well,
prefer
option
what
one-
they have, what they
option
have
one.
right now.
Yes, because they did it ahead of time, so option would be their preference, but they gave us 2 other options that they would be willing to do.
And can you tell us who you are, who you with?
Yes, my name is Salim Fernandez. I am one of the owners of Urban Air Adventure Park, along with my other partner over there, Bobby Kreuzler.
We'd like to.
Any questions y'all do have for me, of course, I would like to point out that in the process of the construction of this, it was never our intentions to not comply or do anything that was against the grain, per se. We pitched this idea to our sign company, and we just assumed as the client that it was in the process of being approved. Obviously, y'all may know we've been open for a little over a month now. There was a process that took place, I guess, once a month here, and unfortunately, our sign company missed a few of those meetings. And as the customer who paid for the services, I was under the impression that they were at these meetings. And so for that, I will say that I did make a mistake in possibly moving forward, not even knowing the requirement by the city. It was by no means, though, an intentions to overstep anyone's bounds or try to demean the project or location at all. We tried to stay within the loud colors that were there and within the neutral colors that were there. There was a canary yellow band that went across, and we thought we brought it even, I guess, even more to a normal color, as the orange in my world would have been the loudest we get as far as urban air goes. But the yellow clearly was a contrast to our sign, and is actually in favor of a competitor of urban air. And so to have the yellow contrast into our front elevation would have just been real awkward for us. So that's the only reason why it went from yellow to orange. The archways of being gray, we just felt that the pink was not conducive to what the brand was or what our identity was. But it all comes back to we never ever wanted to do anything against the grain or to disrespect the city or to do anything out of turn. It was just some miscommunication, and we thought that in a sense this was in the process of being approved when we did it. So for what it's worth, I want to apologize as the person who obviously directed the orders to have it painted, but it was by no means to interrupt the process of
No
the work.
problem.
you.
Apology accepted. Not a problem. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is maybe talk to Brandon here. Is the sign the way it is with the 6.5 feet height? Does that actually work well with a foot? It says a 1.7 on one side and something similar on the top. They have the clearance for that sign for that.
It's very similar to what H.H. Gregg had.
It is. When I drove by, I could certainly say that it's far into the parking lot. There's like big trees right in front of it. There's the nature preserve right by the street. So I think they do need the sign. And as far as the orange, it does bring it out a bit. So I took some pictures if the other board members want to see and discuss it. I want to hear from Damien. You didn't think the orange banding was a good color there on the trim?
Yeah, the orange color, again, because it is not on the ARB color board, if that color was to be approved, it would be approved for everyone to use that color. So,
Well, I'm definitely not for approving that color. And
Right.
the color you gave us, I don't know if you guys see, in mine it's gloss, and we haven't been approving gloss colors in a long time.
Right.
But I went to the property,
It's flat.
Yes, that's
flat.
just a vinyl color that actually matches the same color, but it's not an actual piece of paint. So that's why
Right.
it's shiny, but the color itself is the orange.
Right, so I would definitely not be
It's
going
not the
for
same
that.
finish, yes.
So, go ahead, guys. Anybody got questions for them?
Yeah, I have one. Damien, is the Gauntlet gray an approved color? So we're asking for 2 technical deviations, or?
The gray, the gray is,
Gray is an approved accent.
Okay.
as an accent.
But in this case, it's,
It's the orange that's the problem.
yeah, got it.
And I guess the way they currently have it painted, it's not really an accent color, it's
It's just all,
Yeah,
all
it's just,
gray.
it's covering the whole facade.
correct.
Can I point out? Sorry. I'd like to point out that the backdrop where the sign is proposed here, what option, or
This is one, this is what it is.
option 1, okay. The backdrop along that sign, along with the entire true elevation of the original wall is actually a snowbound white. And just by looking at this image, it's definitely gray. But it is
I have a better picture. I'm
It
gonna
is the
just pass
original
my
white.
phone around. Here you go.
the original white
I
that was
gonna
on
say
there.
It's a cream or,
Yes, but I do notice here that the whole thing looks gray, really, if I'm looking at this. But there's no white contrast, which is
yeah.
really what we have.
Bob,
There.
this is the one
I
that's.
want to ask stuff. Do we have the orange color that we approved for Ford's garage?
It's not orange, it's yellow.
Was it yellow?
I remember it looked orange in the printing.
Yeah, in the render, it looked
It
orange.
was, it's a
Oh,
very
it was
light-
yellow, and I understand why he doesn't want yellow. It doesn't work with the sign and that. Okay. So this is the yellow we approved for Ford's garage,
Okay.
and that's the look. Anybody want to ask question or voice an opinion here?
If the orange were to get approved, it would only be approved as an accent color as well?
Just
Would
the
there,
way.
would there be limitations on that?
it would just be
it
placed
just-
on the color board, and anybody can
Got
come
it,
in
okay.
painting their house trim color that orange.
I
Well,
would.
who picked the kumquat? Is that an approved color on our board? This one here?
That one's just a sign color.
That's the signage.
That's
Sign
just
color.
a sign color, so that doesn't count. It's the colors below it.
Well, that's what they're asking for, is this color here.
Yeah, that's knockout orange. The kumquat is the sign color.
One
So
That's
above.
the color that's on their
Oh, that's
sign.
the sign.
yeah, so
Top
look at
row's the sign colors,
Yeah.
the second row's the paint.
What I can say is I don't mind the orange the way it is now. I would like it to be toned down to the kumquat, but because you already painted, we can live with it. I definitely don't want it on the color board. That's my personal opinion.
I think it has to though,
Can't
once
have
we
one or
approve
the
it.
other.
You approve it,
Yeah,
it has to go on the
once
color
it's
board.
on the color,
Yeah.
once you
Yeah.
approve it,
Ouch.
it's on the color board.
yeah. Remember when?
Oh,
Corey
the new
came
law
here,
change that just came?
Yeah, a few
Can-
months ago with the resolution.
Can someone educate me real quick on an accent color versus it being a color that can be used throughout? So I know they're referencing an accent color versus, it's kind of similar to what you had mentioned, Miguel, but what is the difference between the two?
Okay.
If you open that board right there, we have an approved color chart for the Village of Wellington, that the board allows any house or commercial property to paint their property these colors. So they can't individually approve a color for your property. They would have to add it to the board, that orange, as an accent color. So if you look on the side, they have a list of accent colors.
Well, not to get too technical, but Flower Pot and the Sunset, I mean, those looked almost as ideal shades of it. I know we're referencing these photos. I'm glad y'all took the time to drive by. It doesn't feel like it's this bright. It doesn't feel like it covers like this. I guess I would ask for at least some consideration in what's really there versus what the photo may show, or what Thomas has in his hand, that sheen orange, the high gloss orange. I just don't want I don't want it to get confused with what's really there. It's if this is an approved color board, I mean, I guess we're referencing a shade that could be a little bit off of an approved color that is already here. And maybe
Can we,
see-
can we see
can
the
we
board? Is
see-
there anything? Can we do a distinction between commercial and residential? You know, the legislator, the Florida, just tied our hand a few months ago, literally, because we could have.
You just
give you a-
died?
The Florida legislature tied our hands because they said you can't just approve it on a case-by-case basis.
Which is what we used to be able to do.
So what we used to be able to do, so, and this part is just accent color, right?
Well, that's why we conditioned it to allow option 3 with, the option to change the awning and the back facade.
What color is that,
I
Dave?
like
On the
option
colored
3. I
board.
mean, I know it
color
doesn't
is that, Damien?
successfully meet your branding requirements for the signage and everything, but
Flower pot?
B 18-6.
That was the only thing
If I may speak on option 3, if I could point out something very similar to what you'd mentioned, Ron, was, you know, we are in such a unique corner with zero visibility, and there's no attention getter. And even when you're in the parking lot, we've even tried to speak with our landlord of possibly even trimming some trees, but you know, it's a whole nother conversation. But even standing about 30, 40 foot from our entrance, you can't even see the sign. The trees do such a great job of blocking this, you know, $40,000 sign that we're trying to install. We've questioned even, you know, putting the money into it just because you can't really see it unless you really get onto the thoroughfare or the driveway of what's in front of our store. The orange border is one of the only things that kind of does pop out as you're turning the corner or as you're at that stop sign, but you don't really see us. And it's been a difficult challenge for us for this full month that we've been open. People can't find us. Even Google puts us about 100 yards to the side of Panera Bread, which is we're not even over there. It's just been a challenge, to say the least, to get people to even see us. It's not meant to be a super eye catcher or be super loud, but it was supposed to draw in some attention to that vacant area, which has been vacant for such a long time. And I think that the customers who've been familiar with Wellington know that that area hasn't had any attention for years, and this was just our one opportunity to just say that this is where the store is at. If you don't see the sign, you do at least see the orange, and it references urban air.
Well, when I drove in, it's been a while, we used to go to Panera, and I drove in and it caught my eye immediately. So I was looking for two things, the orange trim of the front and the sign. Now, the trees are up there, but if you go in the parking lot, you can still see your store. So that's how it didn't take me long to find it once I was in the right area. And you were there, and I agree, that's the only store that's vacant right along that part. My feeling is that you got off on the wrong foot by having somebody go ahead and go in and do the work, and now you're asking for forgiveness. The sign, okay, I agree with the chair. The sign, but I don't think we should have that bright orange. That's not conducive as far as I'm concerned. And I think that flower pot was on our color board, which is orange.
It looks like it's a little bit lighter.
Yeah, that's all. So I would approve it with the flower pot being there on your edging of the arcade there.
Would just out of curiosity, would we be allowed to, or is this a whole another type of meeting? Would be allowed to even put signage or colors on our windows?
12 and 9, we've already been.
Just to create some sort of attention. We don't have any vinyl stickers or anything to that
I
matter.
think you can do that. That's
You-
Damien, go ahead.
You are allowed some signage on the window. I would recommend providing it to staff so we can review it before doing that.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind adding, maybe, are you be open to put the kumquat orange on the trim instead of the knockout orange?
Is that
Kumquat's
here?
not on our,
It's
not
the
on the
one you
board.
submitted to us.
No, that's the
That's-
color
That's for
of
the
their
sign.
That's the
sign.
sign.
Right. Can you put that on the trim, that color, rather than going with the
Okay.
this
But that's
orange?
not
That
an
color is
approved
not on our
color
board.
on our
It's not on
board.
our
Put it on the color board.
Right. I'm
Yeah, put it on the
okay
color
with
board.
putting it on a color board with a a restriction that it can only be used in a trim in a certain percentage of the building, the same way we used it here.
I don't think,
I wanna
can you
give it
put
a-
something on the color board and put conditions to it?
No,
It's
no.
just on
No
there.
way, yeah, there's no way for us really to monitor
I
that.
think the easiest way out for this gentleman is to put the flower pot, which is on our color board. That's what it's called. And that's a sort of, Damien can show you which one it is.
I see.
You can submit a color similar to them, and they'll give it to us, and we can approve it or not.
No, I will totally follow your lead on that, Thomas. I'm just dying to get a sign, so I
No.
wanna,
Okay.
I wanna accommodate everybody's needs if I can.
Well, we'll
meet in the
be able
middle.
to detach the sign approval from the paint color approval anyways. Yeah, so.
Okay, so if you're okay with that, I think we got into a good agreement here.
So
Well-
you're,
So we've
so,
got-
like, pretty much choose whatever, like a color that's on the approved color chart for that. You would want
Exactly.
to break it up.
Well, I
And
think
they can-
specifically, we're gonna mention flower pot.
Okay.
Right.
So the ARB can approve it with that color, and they would not have to come back to the board as long
We'll
as they.
approve it with any color on a color chart, and they're gonna show you
Well, I
the
think the
color.
gentleman is
on
the
being
variation.
exactly-
Right.
Damien's
Still
trying to
two-tone
tell
mat?
us.
I was about to ask
Use
that.
The word flower pot,
Flower pot,
part of the motion. That's
as on, provided on the color board.
Yep.
Okay,
So, okay, so those were two of the things, and I think the third thing we were talking about is the archway,
Correct.
the,
The-
where it's
gra-
all gray.
Correct.
uh,
Are there coverage limitations to that gray?
It's intended to be an accent, and,
Accent.
the,
did you wanna see more color, Damien, on the
Right, the-
moldings?
the issue with the way it's painted now, it's
Just all gray.
it's all gray. It doesn't give you any contrast, which again would not be something that would be consistent with our requirements.
Yeah, see, I think that needs to go back to match the top that you can't see on here, so that it's that cream, so
Okay,
the
so-
dimensional with the gray also though, like in option 3, I guess,
Okay, so on option
or option
3,
2,
Option one.
or option 2.
option 3, around the entrance column, you have a little bit of a lighter color that can match the one on top where you put the sign on.
I do want to point out though that there is an accent to those two columns. The contrast of the snowbound white, which is against the wall, is what makes those two pillars or columns per se accents. I get that there are moldings on these two columns that would obviously give it depth if I was to paint maybe those white. But there is definitely contrast against the existing wall that is white. Option 1 is actually a very poor image of it. It doesn't even show you that it's a true white.
Yeah.
It really is, when you get into option 2 and 3, it is a white wall that's above the windows, and
Yeah.
there is legitimate. Yeah, okay. Stacy has the image, and that's actually very helpful. But it clearly states and shows to anybody walking by that is an accent, that is a punch out. If I could have consideration for that being considered an accent, that'd be great.
I'm fine with the way it is based on the picture I took. I don't know if anybody else here on the board wants to see something else.
What was staff's recommendation on the gray?
Option 3.
Option 3,
Option
right?
3.
Yes.
Because again, option 3 does provide the architectural detail elements that are on the building. With option 1, that is kind of, with the gray, it kind
Hey,
of takes that
Damien, look
away.
at this picture. It actually looks.
No,
pretty
I
good
do
this way.
understand in terms of the portion that's recessed, that portion definitely it helps. But looking at the projected areas there, those two areas and the color of it, just not having that contrast with the architectural detail, it does kind of.
I personally feel it looks a lot bigger the way it is now. If you go to option 3, you make those columns very small.
So my thought
I
is
would
just
go-
going along with the whole entire L-shaped building. So when you go in the whole front building, before
right.
it curves
It's
around,
completely different
they all,
colors.
well, yeah, and it was similar, but any of like the arches or the architectural, they all have
Some
like
white
two
in it.
tones and different things. It's not all one. I know that they're different colors, the peaches and the pinks and stuff, but I think the two-tone, like putting some of that cream back around part of that would make it a little bit more congruent with the rest of the
already
shopping
is white.
center,
Yeah.
even though it's got all the gray.
I don't know why it is an option. Is it possible to maybe the moldings? There's a crown molding at about 17 feet, just above the glass. At that height, the two gargoyle images are orange currently. Is it possible to maybe just take to the trim pieces that pop out that have depth to the snowbound white, which is the existing white that's on the walls currently?
I'm okay with any of those variations. I don't think white on top of the arch will help there because it'll make it smaller, but on the sides, I'm okay with it. On the moldings, anybody's for or against it in the,
I personally have no issues with the sign. I think we're all in somewhat in agreement on that. As
Yep.
far as the paint colors, if we wanted to separate that out, or that approval out, I don't think I would be prepared to approve anything other than option 3 for tonight, but maybe there's some other ideas, and we could go back and forth all night long with some different color speculations, but maybe it would be best for the applicant to review it again and provide some other options. But as far as the 4 options that I'm seeing, I would only be willing to approve option 3.
So Miguel, would you consider flower pot? Or not?
Yeah, I don't think I would even need to consider it since it's an approved color, right?
Yeah, it would just be option 3 with the condition that he changes the awning and that back facade to the flower pot color.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll be
That's
fine
all.
with that.
Yeah,
So pretty much staff
That-
recommendation.
that was, that. But have we satisfied Stacy's comment?
The
Okay.
option, yeah, because it's got that a little bit of the coloring to do the
Okay.
depth of it,
Alright,
which
okay.
kind of makes it a little congruent, even though it's gray and the rest of the building isn't, but it still makes it, gives
And
it a
then-
little
This
depth.
one.
Yeah, and then you would have that approval with option 3, and should you decide to maybe reapply with, apply again with a different option, we would definitely take a look at it at that point.
So what we're saying is option 3, except for where you have orange right now, would just be changed to
The approved color.
the approved color.
Two, but that orange band would be flower pot.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's what, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, even better, correct.
So I would be asked to bring both of the archway columns to the white, all on the perimeter of the current archways.
that's what it looks like they're gonna be willing to do.
You know, I just want to point out that I think option 1, I think the imaging on option 1 is terrible. I know that's probably a printing error, but the image, Stacy, that you do have, you know, it's an obvious contrast. It's an obvious accent. It's not abrasive. I do consider this an earth tone color, the gauntlet gray. It falls in line with the neutral colors that we all consider neutral. I understand there's even a few grays here that match the gauntlet gray. So other than terminology, of course, that's just the color that Sherwin-Williams calls that gray. But there's even that gray on this board here. So I getting into what's accent and what's not, you know, I would really ask for y'all's consideration on understanding the orange. Of course, Thomas, I'm going to get to that flower pot, although I don't think Sherwin-Williams calls it flower pot, and I don't know what manufacturer gets.
You can show him something similar and
Yeah,
we'll tell
yeah.
you if it's
Um,
okay or
Okay.
not.
But I would color code that and match that.
As long as it's flat, you good.
I just, you know, wanted to make the building pop, and it's so hard to get visibility in that corner. And then that was just our objective.
So you're not in favor then of option 3?
I'm not in favor of option 3 in the sense that it makes me bring a lot of the white back. The contrast, there's depth from the existing wall to the 14 feet that comes off the storefront. That depth is what was trying to be brought out. And to blend it all in gives you no contrast to the accent wall. So the accent wall right now is white, and you can argue the accent wall is also gray. The accent wall that we've currently got is a snowbound white. That is the white that is behind the sign. You can see it a little bit better in option 3 and option 2. The wall that's basically the glass wall on the storefront, that is also the same snowbound white, which is why I felt, or in this conversation, feel that the two columns that do pop out are considered accent walls, and the gray that is considered gauntlet gray in our
Anybody wants to
color
look
scale
at it?
is the same gray that's out here.
Miguel, you want to look at it?
Oh,
Okay, any more questions for the witnesses?
Well, I think we want to make sure before we make the motion, just what we're saying. The flower pot will be on the top here, that's how I
That's
understand.
right, correct.
And I think I heard that the option 3, which you're not in favor of, seems to be in the favor of the board here.
What was
At
it?
least of
Option-
mine.
Option,
Yeah.
was it option 2?
Actually,
Two.
two, because he
Option
has the
two.
orange,
Right, so
Miguel.
Oh, that's
option
correct.
2, instead of the
Option-
knockout orange would be the flower pot.
Okay, all right,
Um,
okay. I don't want you to have to come back if we can resolve it now, and you can walk out of here and know what you've got to accomplish.
Understood.
So any more question for
I
the?
think Miguel
about the
is looking at,
testimony?
are you comfortable?
Oh, no, I have no issues. Option 2 is fine, and it'll just be the awning is changing from the color to the approved,
Flower
Yeah.
pot.
the approved
Okay.
flower pot on the board. What the applicant is saying that he wants us to reconsider keeping all that fascia and the columns and the arches in the gray that is currently painted. And I think that's the sticking point.
Is
Okay,
that what you're saying, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why wouldn't you want a little different color there to be attractive to people when they come in? I mean, and it's different. The orange is gonna be different. Why wouldn't you want a different color there to help advertise or brand what you're doing?
Just in my many years of construction and in design, there was a theory behind it, and it's to pop it out. And those two columns that are on both left and right of the door with the archway, those are considered accents. In any term of the word, it's an accent to the current elevation. So our goal was just to pop it out. I wasn't gonna definitely paint it orange. White is not something that I felt was gonna pop it out because the existing wall is white. But I'm by all means here to listen to how you tell me you want it, and I'll do it. There's a reason, and it's just to pop it out. That was it, just to bring it popped out.
Just for the record, the board would have to have a vote of 4 for any colors that we're doing. So just again, in terms of if the,
Sorry,
Go
when
ahead.
you're done.
no, I was gonna say, if the recommendation is for option 2, if that's what the majority of the board is comfortable with, we could move forward with that tonight. Otherwise, the option would always be for the applicant to resubmit.
Can I say something? Okay, so a thought or a question or whatever. Part of this is when you drive around some of the shopping centers and the different things, especially around the mall, all the architectural, all of it is everything's got that, like the two tones, the depths, and nothing is like a solid color like that. And I heard you just say something to the effect that you didn't like the idea of the white, let's say, on the outsides of that, because that's like what the rest of the wall, and it won't make it pop out. So a question I have is, so what if the inside part of the arch is what was painted the white? So you've got the gray on the outside, and that arch part is what's painted the white that matches up top.
I like that.
So now it's not blending in with outside,
Mhm.
yet it's giving that two-tone effect that
Depth.
we're used to throughout the village.
Got it.
But you've got the gray on the outside and then the arch, like,
I see
I
it.
don't know the
No, I see
particulars,
it.
I'm not an architect, but I'm saying, like, what if that arch
Arch.
part is
The white.
painted maybe the white, where it satisfies us thinking, keeping it a little bit congruent with the village, where stuff has that two-tone look, yet it's not the outside where you get your depth that you were talking about.
And what would be the recommendation for the banding?
the banding will stay that orange color that we.
Mhm.
No,
did already.
not the one
Oh, you
that's
mean
on
the
the,
moldings?
yes,
What about those?
So this one, and maybe, so what if it was just this up here was white? And this was white, and that could stay the gray, like the molding part and around it.
So Stacy, you're talking the inside of the arch?
Mm-hmm.
White
So
and
this
nothing
is what I
else?
was
Yeah,
thinking.
so
If
I'm
you look
okay
at
with
the
any
first
which way it goes.
picture, if you look at the first
Let-
picture and
let's-
imagine what's
Too light
peach
to make this.
would be the
So
gray.
you're just
Thinking,
talking
what
the
about
the inside?
this and this up here? So
Oh,
that
okay.
there can stay gray. You know what I mean? Like a back,
The peach would be white and the
out
white would
here,
be,
except this arch in here is white,
right?
and this little bit up here.
I'm not sure.
But then that gives him that depth he's talking about,
yeah.
but it gives us the two-tone look.
Yep,
Okay, right here, kind of like this,
yeah.
so just like this.
Just like in option
But
one.
this is the white. See what I'm saying? So if you look at option 2, the picture right to the left of it, where it was H.H. Gregg,
Yes, ma'am.
so do you see where that peach is?
Yes, ma'am.
Imagine that's the white, and
And
the
the
rest of
outsides
that
is
is the
gray.
gray.
Yes, ma'am. I see that.
Is that, you know what I'm saying? So then
Totally.
it gives the two-tone
It
that
gives
we're
the depth
talking
that we were
about
looking
for the
for
depth
and-
we're
yes.
talking about, but it has your outsides the gray.
Yes,
So
it
that's
does.
not blending in with the walls, and it stands out for you maybe like you're thinking.
I totally agree
That's
with that.
just a thought.
I think, Stacy, you can make a motion either way. Either go with the right side or the left side with the gray on the
think it could
outside.
work. I'd
So this
probably
way
like to
they'll
see
have
that.
an option once they render it.
I think that would work.
But I think so.
We will need to know, in terms of that, I guess, the, molding.
Wherever the peach is
Would staff like to see a
would be white
rendered photo?
and everything else will be
Yeah.
gray, the dark gray.
Right, it's pretty much, in option 2 is the reverse of what's there now.
Yeah, kind of like the building right at the picture
Exactly.
to the left of it.
Exactly.
but-
About the reverse, right. I
But
don't know
in
about the
case,
molding.
in terms of that molding, banding that's going across,
We can leave it open to you guys
okay.
to discuss with them, and then whatever looks better, it'll be good. We don't need to super restrict it, because we're going with approved
Yeah, like the
color.
molding that's going across now that's white on the peach one next door,
Would be
in the
gray.
building next door. I mean, that could be gray and just reverse it so that all, and the H.H. Gregg one, everything that's the white, cream, whatever, would be the gray, and everything that's peach would be the white.
In the two column sides.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I'd be okay with that.
Anybody else have questions for him? Because I'm gonna close it. I'm gonna close the public hearing. Any more discussion
We
from the
closed.
board?
Does
Okay.
staff understand what we're piecing together here for the applicant? Okay.
But they're gonna have to come, they're gonna have to show us something.
They're gonna have to
with it.
show,
We're gonna leave
a
it up to
rendering,
you guys.
I
I
would
can get a rendering to your office by the end of the week if that's possible.
I would recommend, as we, the board indicated,
Proving
for
bo-
staff to make the determination on those, banding that's going across, to provide one option in the gray and one option in the,
The reverse
off-white,
color.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you
So that
give
we-
him
we
both
can make-
options?
And
so
we
that-
can make that determination.
And tell them what you prefer, and I'm sure they'll work with you. They're very good.
Mm-hmm.
So are we saying put a flower pot option and then put a gray option?
No, we're talking just on the
Just the
columns.
art, we're just
Just,
on the
just on the
columns.
archway?
Just on the archway.
So, on the archway, if you're looking at, I guess, option 2.
Okay.
The reverse of what it is now,
Yes, sir.
that will be for the archway and that, I guess, column area.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the molding that's, horizontal,
That one big long molding he's talking
see.
about.
well, we have the long one and then we
And
have the two,
Two
small
little
Little
ones.
ones.
inside.
right. We would have an option in the gray and an option in the off-white.
Understood.
Okay.
Do you follow?
I follow. Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Wyndham, do you want him to stay, or can I close it?
I'm
Well,
here
I
for you.
just want to make sure staff knows what the applicant wants and what the board hears.
Yes, we understand what the board would recommend, and with the rendering that we requested, that will give us the option to make that final determination.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, you will have final approval when he submits
Right.
to you by the.
Yeah, the only approval that we're really doing at this point, that point would just be on that molding ban.
So what he's
On
saying
the
to you
columns.
is you don't have to come back
You
here.
have to come, right.
Just submit it to your,
Just
submit
submit
it,
that last
and
illustration
we
piece
will-
to them.
We'll approve one of those
do I submit it through the online portal or just to you guys directly?
to the planning and zoning.
Sounds like we're ready for motions.
Let's
Okay,
go.
let me close the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion from the board?
So the sign's approved. Is that what we got?
Okay, I can't make a motion. Can somebody give me a motion?
Are we separating them or grouping them all
I
together?
think we can group it all together because we're allowing the sign the way it is anyway.
Yeah, the sign is,
It seems like you guys are all in agreement with everything else.
Yeah, so I
as long as you guys have
motion-
a 5-0
Do I have to
vote
say
for
what it
everything.
is? So
You
I
can say it or I
motion
can
the,
say it.
I motion the sign as it's proposed. I motion in regards to the orange color, the moldings up top is gonna be the
Pending their approval.
color that's already approved on the
Flower-
board, the
Flower
flower
pot.
pots.
Oh,
So that will be flower pot, so that, we're motion for that. And then the third part is, they're going to get a rendering of the reversed to, staff, so that, two different versions that we just discussed. And then staff will make that final decision on those two different renderings,
emphasized on the arches.
on the arches,
Arches, just
on the
wanna make
arches.
sure
Mm-hmm,
that we're doing it.
yep, so that's the
Right.
motion.
Is there anything else that we've missed for you as the applicant?
Just need customers.
Right, he's
them our
advertise,
way.
yeah, we gotta know you
I've
there.
I've already been a few times with my kids.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
I will second.
We have a motion by Ms. Stacy Summers, second by Mr. Tom Winham. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion
for your time.
passes unanimously. Thank you. Good luck
Good luck
to
to
you.
you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Yeah, I think that was a great suggestion.
Okay,
Good compromise.
the old business has been tabled. Are there any comments from the public?
That was too much.
Too much look like a castle.
Any comments for staff? Any comments for the board?
I think that this was a good test, and I'm glad that we came together on it. It'll be a little difficult, but we did come together on it.
I do have a comment regarding the window guys. I don't know if you recall, when we approved it, we conditioned it where it was the window guys and
In
then
one line,
7
right.
inches of Florida.
The 7
And
inches
so
is
they
too
came
small.
back with the window guys of Florida, one huge line, or what was it, 20 inches tall, and then it was within the square footage and it was within the length. And we had a memo, but, oh, if you want to, here, why don't you go ahead and show them that, that rendering. So what we're asking is if the only thing is that they're not within the of Florida 7 inches, but they are within the height requirement, the spacing above and below, and the square footage.
Are you okay with it?
I mean, because you conditioned it of Florida to be 7
Yes, I
inches,
remember.
Okay,
we can't approve it unless unless the board is okay with it.
I would like it to be smaller, but I think it's fine if that's what they like. I have no problem with it.
Because it just doesn't meet that of Florida 7 inches. It meets the square footage, the length,
But
the
everything,
height.
everything else is within code.
But because the board conditioned of Florida to be 7 inches, we just wanted to make sure that the board was okay.
How do we have to deal with that?
Want a motion?
We can just motion it right now.
I didn't vote on the original one. so-
I didn't.
That's
either.
fine. It's fine.
Anybody wants to make a motion to approve it as they did it? I guess they already put it up.
Okay,
It
the
looks like-
motion would be then what Brandon showed us.
Right.
That's all we've seen as a
Yeah,
board.
that's really all it is. It's just that they took of Florida, instead of making it 7 inches, they made it the same length, or the same height as all the
If I
other.
remember, I think the sign initially was, what's the beginning of it before of
The
Florida?
window guys.
I think it's window guys, and underneath, I
Was of
think, was of Florida or something.
Right.
We suggested they move it,
To the
the
side.
of Florida to the side, keeping
But
it small
small.
like it was gonna be
And
underneath.
I actually think that it's even smaller in height than what the
Was-
board approved, so
right.
they even
Yeah.
reduced
They
the
They
height.
reduced the height.
They
yeah.
reduced it because we gave them a 3 inches.
No, they just
clearances on
reduced it
top
to
and
make it
bottom.
smaller,
They just made it
actually.
smaller.
4 inches top and bottom.
It was 4 inches, okay.
Top and bottom.
And then, so staff doesn't have any objection, obviously.
No, it meets the code in terms of the height.
Sure.
So,
Okay, then I'll make a motion that we approve the window guys of Florida as all one line. Is
One
that
height, one height.
in one height?
Yes.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Tom Wenham, a second by Ms. Stacy Summers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Okay, great. Any more comments from the board? I want to say to Kelly, we're going to wish you good luck with the new baby. Wishing
This
you
is my last meeting till September, so Brandon and Damien and Corey and we'll take good care of you.
thank you for everything you do for us. We're wishing you an easy delivery, healthy
Thank
baby.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Okay,
But make sure you keep your,
Oh, yes, keep your
Fences.
fences. We'll keep
Okay.
putting it
you don't
on
want
until
Kelly
we
to
get
come
a
back
full
and
board.
have to.
Now I have two. I got my one from last
meeting
time.
is adjourned.
I'm gonna get it, what's it called? What's it when you put it in the
It's like a
plastic?